in order to help prevent incidents involving carbon, such as charcoal, there are changes in Amendment 4224 of the IMDG Code for these substances. Some of them are very significant, especially for charcoal and other non-activated carbon. These changes may be applied voluntarily in 2025 and will be mandatory from the 1st of January 2026. That said, because this is a significant tightening of the rules in order to improve safety and prevent loss for all involved, many shipping lines may insist that they are adopted earlier. In my mind, these are sensible precautions, and in some cases, once you get used to them, they might actually make shipping these substances more straightforward. To understand these changes and how they might affect those concerned, we need to look at how the classification provisions used to work for these substances and how this changes in the latest amendment. There are 3 entries in the dangerous goods list for carbon. The 2 entries for UN 1361, carbon of animal or vegetable origin, differ depending on the packing group, and 1 entry for activated carbon. All entries are assigned to Class 4.2. Class 4.2 covers substances liable to spontaneous combustion, and in the case of carbon, as a self-heating substance. And in order to assign these substances to Class 4.2, up until now, they had to be tested. And this is where, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see the issues start. The test to assign a substance as self-heating to Class 4.2, as outlined in the IMDG Code, which cross-reference to the Manual of Tests and Criteria, can also be used to exempt the substance or material. So just think about that for a minute. You've got a load of charcoal, you've taken a few samples, probably off the top, and now you've got a shiny official test report to say the substance isn't dangerous goods. So you whack it in a container and ship it halfway around the world. 2 weeks later, the container's on fire. You might not have sampled a representative amount. The properties of the substance may have changed between sampling and loading, like it might have got wet. And remember, these substances are assigned to Class 4.2 because they are self-heating rather than being pyrophoric. So this can be a very delayed hazard that occurs days or weeks after loading. And this is where the rules are changing. If we go back to our dangerous goods list examples, when you look in your copy of Amendment 42, you'll see the little triangle next to each of these entries to signify they have been amended. The previous special provisions for these entries in column 6 are deleted and replaced with new ones. For UN 1361, both entries also have the special packing provision PP12 deleted in relation to packing instruction P002, which allowed less water-resistant bags to be used in cargo transport units. So you can see they've really gone to town on this. They've been very thorough. The new special provision 978 assigned to both entries of UN 1361 contains details of how the carbon must be stored prior to shipment and loaded. This must be confirmed with additional information to be included in the dangerous goods transport document as per 5.4.1.5.18. Plus, it includes 2 very important points in relation to classification. Firstly, these 2 entries can no longer be exempted by testing, so they always have to be declared and shipped as dangerous goods by sea. Secondly, you can now assign carbon such as charcoal to the UN 1361 entries without testing. And that's what I meant when I said before that this might make shipping these substances more straightforward, as you don't have to go through all that rigmarole and expense of testing. So if you're a shipper of UN 1361, the consequence of this change is that the goods will always be dangerous goods by sea, with all that entails, including using the correct packaging and following the instructions in Special Provision 978. If you're a carrier transporting these goods to and from the port, whereas these may previously not have been dangerous goods, the containers will now always be marked up and placarded as dangerous goods, so make sure you're complying with the relevant road regulations such as ADR as well. Note, these are IMDG Code provisions. Special Provision 978 is not present for these entries in ADR, at least not in the moment anyway. So theoretically, you could still exempt such material for road carriage via the same testing procedures from the Manual of Tests and Criteria outlined in ADR. So for the foreseeable future, we've got a bit of a disparity in the regulations here. There may be people producing such products domestically which are exempt by road, but they will be dangerous goods if they are shipped by sea. So if you're a producer, freight forwarder or shipping agent, please be aware of this disparity and ensure such goods are always classified and declared properly, depending on the mode or modes of transportation employed. If we turn our attention back to the dangerous goods list, the entry for UN 1362, this is for the activated carbon. There's an example of what that might look like. This is the type used in filters quite often and also has a new special provision. Special provisions 223 and 925 have been deleted from this entry and replaced with 979. Activated carbon made by a steam activation process is no longer completely exempted by default. It must now be accompanied by a certificate from the shipper stating that it is steam activated carbon in order to exempt it. The special provision states that this must be submitted in accordance with new documentation provisions contained at 5.4.4.2, which requires the cargo information required by SOLAS Chapter 6 Regulation 2 to be submitted alongside. Now be careful if reading SOLAS, because the references are a bit tricky. I think this refers to SOLAS Chapter 6, the Roman numerals of VI Regulation 2, the one titled Cargo Information. So although a dangerous goods transport document isn't required, a written description of the cargo, the gross mass and any relevant special properties of the cargo must be submitted along with the certificate. And this seems like an appropriate precaution because it means even though the cargo is exempt, it is clearly described for what it is and its properties. And this is highlighted by some of the P&I Club's guidelines that even if the carbon is exempt, it may be appropriate to be stowed on deck and away from sources of heat. I must say there's been a bit of confusion about what that SOLAS reference requires. I think it probably could be more clearly defined. Hopefully I've interpreted it correctly, but if not, please comment below this video and let us know your thoughts. So steam activated carbon remains exempt as long as you've got a certificate from the shipper to state that's what it is. For chemically activated carbon, there's no real change to how that can be exempted. It's still required to be accompanied by a test certificate. But the wording here in Special Provision 979 is tightened up to how it appeared in the previous Provision 925 because it previously just stated that the sample or samples had to pass the test. But in reality, if it passes the test, it's class 4.2, so it shouldn't be exempt. What you need is a negative test result to state it doesn't meet the test criteria for class 4.2, which is what the text now states. So if this applies to you, then I'd recommend reading that paragraph alongside a copy of the UN Manual of Tests and Criteria, which you can get freely online, and we'll link to that below, and it should all fit into place. You'll also need to submit a copy of the test report with a shipment along with the SOLAS Chapter 6 Regulation 2 description. And if the activated carbon does not meet Special Provision 979, it's not exempt, and it must be shipped as UN 1362. There we are. This is quite a big change for some people, so there's loads of really good guidance that's been provided online, especially from some of the P&I clubs and cargo associations. There are also guidelines adopted by some of the P&I clubs which exceed the requirements of the IMDG Code in relation to charcoal, and they provide a lot of emphasis on correct classification. So please check those out if they are applicable to you. And if you are a shipper, please don't get stressed out if you're asked for more information than required by the IMDG Code, because this might be why. If you're interested in learning more about the shipment and transport of dangerous goods by sea, we have a range of e-learning courses available, all updated to the latest amendment of the IMDG Code and other changes. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe below, because it really helps us determine the areas of the regulations that people are interested in online. Thank you.